Hey, my name's Tyler Boronski. You're watching my YouTube channel. We're sitting down with notable names in the entertainment and digital space. Today's guest, he is the man responsible for some of Hollywood's most impressive fitness transformations, working closely alongside people like Daniel Craig for the James Bond franchise, Tom Hiddleston for Loki, Chris Evans for Captain America, just to name a few. He's also an author. He's got a new book coming out. We'll get into that in just a bit, but man, he is one of Hollywood's most in-demand people, you could argue, and he's taking a few minutes to join us today, so we really appreciate that. Simon Waterson, hello and welcome.
Very pleased to see you, Tyler. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, and glad to have you on to discuss this new book for you. It's exciting news coming out May 11th, the 10-week Intelligent Fitness Challenge. I know there's a significance to that 10 weeks. Can you share for our audience what that is?
Yeah, it's just really, really nice to be able to kind of like allow people to be able to emulate and to be able to do what I do pre-production. So it's basically, if I get an actor and I need to get him ready for a role or she needs to get ready for a role, then I normally need 10 weeks. And so what I do is I come up with a 10-week program. And what's great about this book, in comparison to other books, this is what I actually do. It's not, and it's tried and it's tested. It's not like I've kind of like designed a program for everyone else and then I do something different with actors. This is the real deal. This is like something that I put together. Lots of tips, lots of tricks, kind of a bit of nutrition in there, and the simplicity. And I think that's what's the key with a lot of these things. It's making things very accessible and very simplistic. And that's what I love. And I can just give it back to everybody. And everybody can do this kind of like Hollywood or actor or pre-production workout.
Now you do say it is what you do every day. So you know what to present to people, but it's still a process to formulate a book. I know you've done a book in the past, so I guess what did you learn from that process the first time that was able to help you with kind of narrowing things down for this book and going about things this time around?
I think the book I did before was a little bit more behind the scenes. So it was more of kind of like telling more stories about actors and their struggles and their strides of what they had to do. This is more of a structure. So this is the actual programs put into a nice format with a lot of structure of what you would do on week 1 all the way up to kind of like week 10. And then I put a little bit of a spin on it because in week 10, I take you back all the way to week 1 to allow you to kind of like see progression. And I think that's the main thing with a lot of trainers, coaches, and different people in this kind of like in this space, is that their clients, they never feel any sense of progression. It's really, really difficult because every workout becomes progressively a little bit more harder, or they want a little bit more out of you. This is all about giving you it back and going, wow, look what I've achieved in 10 weeks. And as opposed to week 1, look what I'm doing now, kind of like in week 9. And then you do week 10 and you're like, this is simple. This is easy. And it's like, yeah, but you really struggled. You really struggled in the beginning on week 1. So it's just basically, it's a lot of psychology like around fitness as well and wellness.
Switching gears a little bit, let's get into your day job per se. You're always on the go. I know you just came back from Rome, always working with different actors. I'm curious to understand that process a little more when you do get a new client for the first time. I guess, what is that conversation like? Does the actor explain to you, I guess, what do they have to do for their scenes? Do they just say, hey, Chris Evans, for example, I'm Captain America now, and then you tailor it from there? How does that conversation work when you get the client for the first time?
The Chris Evans one is an interesting one, and I can remember that it was the very first Marvel movie that was going to be filmed. And I went for like an interview process, and what I could do, they asked me that they would like him to look a particular way. I went to see the director, and he kind of like said, we want him to look like if he's carrying the shield on his back, we'd like him to look, quite muscular. But then again, he has to be kind of like fast, efficient. He's got to be able to be quite diverse with all the things he does. So I get the brief. and then I get a script or an outline of the script. I break that script down a little bit into what's very, very athletic and what's aesthetic. So what he's going to be asked to do performance-wise, and what he's got to really look like. And then, so I take that, get all that information together, and I come up with what I think. I look at Chris, I kind of, you know, now I've got a bit more of a trained eye of like looking at him kind of like genetically. So you can see what he's going to be kind of like capable of. And then I just start to hatch a plan. I speak with Chris and I just say, what would you like to be able to look like? Because essentially, you know, especially working for Marvel, it's a tough one, because all their characters are obviously, they're all drawn, and it's great to be able to draw all those characters. But the process to make the human look like the actual artwork is, yeah, you can imagine it's quite tough. You know, you can draw a character in 20 minutes. It's probably going to take you about, you know, maybe 10, 12 weeks to kind of like make him look like that. So yeah, it's a nice process. And then I on that particular job, and then I flew to America. I lived in the street next to Chris, and then we start the process, and we worked. Yeah, you know, we worked out, and we came up with a plan, and we did what's called the periodization. So we worked it back of what we were going to have to do to be able to look like that in particular scenes, especially the very first scene, quite an iconic scene when he comes out of that kind of like pod, and he turns into Captain America from, you know, Skinny Steve into Captain America. And yeah, it's a nice process to be able to do. But what's great about it is that when people are compliant, it's really, really easy. It's the tough ones are when people don't really want to do it, and they don't really want to work that hard, and they don't understand, you know, how hard it is sometimes to get in that kind of shape. It's tough. Now, I used a lot of this methodology that I've kind of like methodology that I've kind of put into this book. So it allowed me to kind of like build a little bit of muscle tissue, burn a little bit of fat, make sure he was diverse, and he could kind of like do a lot of endurance things. So you can see by those Marvel movies that they're tough. You know, they film for a very long time, and there's a lot of athleticism involved. But again, fun. It's all really, really fun. So if I do the 10 weeks filming's easy. So if we do a really, really kind of like good kind of like 10 weeks, then the filming part is easy. That's all about a little bit of maintenance. And that's what I say a little bit in the book, is that, you know, have a really, really good 10 weeks and then enjoy what you've achieved. Enjoy it. Don't try and keep pushing, because that's when you just, you know, you lose heart, and you start going, oh, it's just getting tougher and tougher and tougher. Enjoy it being easy, because it should be just a little bit easy.
I love that. I will ask you about one more client, if you don't mind. You know, obviously the one you are most associated with, Mr. Craig. How have those workouts changed over the years when you think about when you first got him in Casino Royale, and then the last film in No Time to Die? How have you had to adapt those workouts?
Yeah, the process kind of always stayed the same, and you know, and like Daniel always said to me in the very, very beginning, he's like, look, I don't really want to have a per se kind of like a trainer. I want to have a training partner. So his pain was always my pain. So I knew what he was going through, but then again, he had to do his day job, which was act. And the only way it changed is that the time just took a little bit longer, and we were just a little bit more aware of our recovery, because as we were getting a little bit older, the recovery just takes a little bit longer. So it was the recovery kind of phases that I was very, very kind of like conscientious with, and that's covered in the book as well. I mean, where, you know, and recovery comes in many kind of like different guises, whether it's a treatment or whether it's just really good kind of like sleep, really good kind of like anti-inflammatory nutrition, or you use percussion tools or rollers, or you meditate. All those things are really good recovery tools. So what becomes paramount is the recovery rather than the training. So the training becomes a little bit, we've been there, we knew what we're doing, we know how long it kind of like took on Casino compared to Quantum, and then going on to Spectre, to Skyfall, Spectre, like No Time to Die. The process just took a little bit longer, and we gave ourselves a little bit more time. We weren't so rushed, and we allowed ourselves really good recovery procedures, especially, just the things that are really kind of apparent now. We're all kind of like looking to be able to kind of like really good breath work. Try kind of like switching the shower on at the end for 30 seconds, 90 seconds cold. All these hacks, all these little resets that we were kind of like doing, and they all add up, and they all help, and they allow you to kind of like stay consistent. And also as well, the most important thing is to progress and not get injured and not get ill is kind of like the main thing.
I just named a couple people right there for you. I know there's a long list that we're not even getting to today. And it's impressive to hear, because you don't get to that point without a combination of networking, building your personal brand within your industry. Can you give me an example maybe early on in your career of how, I guess, that networking process happened for you to really start building the clientele you have been able to develop over the years?
Well, I think I've just been really lucky, and again with work ethic probably came a little bit from the military. So I was military first of all, and I was very consistent, and I always believed, no matter how tired I was, or no matter how kind of fatigued I was, or sometimes again on these gloomy days and in the middle of the night on a set when you really don't, it was all about me giving my client as much energy as possible to get them through. And I always kind of like said, it's not how you start, it's always how you finish, especially on a job. You have to finish. If you finish strong on a job, you're always going to be remembered. And that's been a bit of a mantra kind of like from my kind of like perspective. And also as well, just, always be yourself when you're trying to kind of like explain things, and don't be afraid of kind of like a little bit of failure, and don't be afraid. I suppose for myself, don't be afraid of kind of like showing your weaknesses as well, because I'm not maybe the best runner, I'm not maybe the best cyclist, I'm maybe not the best all those things, but when other people see maybe like your perceived weaknesses, it gives them strength, that it's not about kind of like these people are just uber fit. It just doesn't come like, just fitness doesn't come. It's all about patience. You got to be really patient with fitness.
I'll leave you with this. When someone reads this book, when it comes out May 11th, the 10-week challenge, what is, I guess, the biggest compliment you could receive after someone goes through this? And let's say just a normal person, and maybe they're starting their fitness journey or getting into it. What's the biggest compliment you would like to hear from someone?
Just feel better. I think that's the biggest compliment you can get. I get lots of emails. I get lots of kind of like, people saying to me, yeah, I just feel better. You've just turned my habits around. And that's the main thing. If I can turn one habit around for somebody, and they feel better, and it allows them to have a little bit more of a healthier lifestyle, and they sleep well, and they can communicate well. And you know what? The biggest thing as well that I always kind of like hear is like, you've allowed me to play with my kids the sports that I wanted to play myself with my kids. And that's a lot of kind of like dads and mums say, yeah, I'm just great now that I'm fit for my kids. I can play tennis with them. I can go for a bike ride. And I think that's the biggest compliment, that it's just improved lifestyle.
I think, Simon, you just gave me my gift idea for my parents for Father's Day and Mother's Day coming up. So Simon Waterson, thank you so much. He has the new book, The 10-Week Intelligent Fitness Challenge, coming out May 11th. Check it out right there. Beautiful. We love it. Simon, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. My pleasure.